Mm-hmm.
It's a big day. Will Smith is back in the spotlight. 3 months after slapping Chris Rock, he's here for his official apology. I am sure that he has used these 3 months really effectively. He's going to have deep insight, transparency. We're going to see some vulnerability, a contemplative Will Smith. I can't wait. Okay, but can I just start off by saying, why is there this huge sigh at the start of it? Like, do we have to have him in the microphone ahead of giving his apology, being like, oh, God, I got to do this. All right, let's watch this thing.
Why didn't you apologize to Chris in your acceptance speech?
All right, I don't mean to stop it already, but Will Smith is an Oscar-winning actor, an incredibly skilled orator, rapper. This guy knows language. He knows how to speak in front of people. And he's got a whole team of publicists. He's definitely prepared for this. Why is he reading this like he just graduated from a Hooked on Phonics class? Why is this is part of the contemplative feel?
I was fogged out by that point. It's all fuzzy. I've reached out to Chris, and the message that came back is that he's not ready to talk, and when he is, he will reach out. So I will say to you, Chris, I apologize to you. My behavior was unacceptable, and I'm here whenever you're ready to talk.
All right. He could have been fogged out, or hot take, he wasn't sorry at all. If you remember, at that time, he was still in his bubble. I don't think that Will really understood the way the world would see this until he left the Oscars, right? He slaps Chris Rock, goes back to his seat, thinks everything's fine and dandy, wins an Oscar, gets a standing ovation, and then gave a fantastic, thoughtful acceptance speech, right? He acknowledged what he did was wrong, all these things, but he didn't comment on Chris. I don't think he was worried about it. I think in Will's mind, he had consequenced Chris correctly for his behavior.
I want to apologize to Chris's mother. I saw an interview that Chris's mother did, and that was one of the things about that moment. I just didn't realize, and I wasn't thinking, but how many people got hurt in that moment. So I want to apologize to Chris's mother. I want to apologize to Chris's family, specifically Tony Rock. We had a great relationship. Tony Rock was my man. This is probably irreparable.
All right, I'll give it to him. I think this is a good move. I think acknowledging that he didn't recognize the impact he was going to have on other people outside of Chris Rock, outside of his fans, his family, I think it's valid. I think he simply wasn't thinking at the time. So I think acknowledging it, and to me, he feels sincere. I like to give the guy a hard time, but this feels sincere and contemplative, however you pronounce that word. It's good.
I spent the last 3 months replaying and understanding the nuances and the complexities of what happened in that moment. And I'm not going to try to unpack all of that right now, but I can say to all of you, there is no part of me that thinks that was the right way to behave in that moment. There's no part of me that thinks that's the optimal way to handle a feeling of disrespect or insults.
Okay, so here's my beef. I think Will Smith in particular, like if you just look at Will's social media exposure, the way he has talked and continues to talk about his relationship with Jada, the way he approaches parenting, everything is very there's always depth to it. There's always a different way of looking at things. He's always very thoughtful. There's like the way he describes you. Like I spent 3 months unpacking all of the nuance of that situation, really understanding what triggered me and how I felt. And I want to be like, if I were his therapist, I would say, Will, you acted poorly. Knock it off. I don't think that there needs to always be this super in-depth, soul-searching, mission to figure out why you did what you did. You did what you did because you're arrogant. You thought you could get away with it. You thought that you were standing up for your wife. And so you reacted. And you've been in a bubble for too long, and you don't recognize what the impact is. It's like he's coming off of writing his book where he was very transparent about the abuse he experienced as a child, a feeling like he wasn't courageous. And like, I understand that there's a history of trauma there, but he cannot go, it's in my opinion, a history of trauma doesn't necessitate poor behavior in the future. At a certain point, we have to just say, this was terrible behavior. My ego got in the way, and I need to stop. I don't think it's always of benefit to go back and go, oh, well, this is because I didn't have a father, and because I didn't have a father, I didn't know how to, like, all these things. Like, I get it once. I understand the intellectual journey of figuring that out. But at a certain point, it becomes an excuse. At a certain point, it becomes the narrative that he tells himself, this is why I do what I do, as opposed to truly taking accountability for it.
After Jada rolled her eyes, did she tell you to do something? No. It's like, I made a choice on my own, from my own experiences, from my history with Chris.
All right, that part right there I don't like. First of all, it had nothing to do with Jada. Give me a break. If you know anything about the relationship between Will and Jada, it's been a rough couple of years. Jada's out with other men. Will's supposedly out with other women. They're on the red table talk, and Jada's talking about her, entanglements. She had something to do with it. But more than that, the fact that he says it had to do with my history with Chris, but is not willing to name what that history is. It's a way, again, of him not really taking accountability, right? He's saying it had nothing to do with Jada. It had to do with something about Chris. So now the audience goes, well, what did Chris do? What has Chris done? Maybe there was a reason why Will reacted the way he did, right? In our mind, we're thinking, oh, there's a backstory. There's intrigue here. It's not just that Will's a narcissist.
I'm sorry, babe. I'm going to say sorry to my kids and my family for the heat that I brought on all of us. To all my fellow nominees, this is a community. It's like I won because you voted for me. And it really breaks my heart to have stolen and tarnished your moment. I can still see Questlove's eyes. It happened on Questlove's award, and it's like I'm sorry really isn't sufficient.
I agree with this part. I think it's a good apology. I think it makes sense. I think it's sincere. And he's right. It was shitty. What he did was shitty, and it was shitty for all of the people that were there, but especially for Questlove.
What would you say to the people who looked up to you before the slap, or people who expressed that you let them down? So there's two things. One, disappointing people is my central trauma. I hate when I let people down.
Disappointing people is my central trauma. I'm not sure exactly what that means. I don't know if it means that it's traumatic for him when he disappoints people, or when he was a kid, he felt like he disappointed his mom, and so as a consequence, that's a point of trauma for him. My initial reaction is, geez, it's like I just want him to go, I was arrogant. My ego took over. I'm sorry, I'm getting it in check. That's what I want him to say. And I feel like he keeps sliding. We all keep sliding back to, well, what was the underlying psychological mechanism that led to this behavior? And to me, it feels like that at some level diffuses the responsibility a little bit. So I feel that. I also feel like there are certain things to me kind of just in the work that I do. I do feel like there are things that are off limits as far as it's hard for me as an observer to know really what Will's trauma looks like or how he experiences that every day. And so this sounds like something he has talked to somebody about, and this is language that he has used before. And certainly there are a lot of people for whom disappointing others, for whom being well-liked is core to their identity. And I can imagine for Will, getting the backlash that he has and disappointed the way that he has, I am sure that it is soul-crushing. So I want to be a jerk and make fun of it, but I also don't want to minimize. I am sure it is crushing him to have this kind of a backlash.
So it hurts. It hurts me psychologically and emotionally to know I didn't live up to people's image and impression of me. And the work I'm trying to do is I am deeply remorseful, and I'm trying to be remorseful without being ashamed of myself.
All right. So the use of the word ashamed, this is popular in psychology right now. There's been this kind of trend in the last, I would say 5 or maybe even 10 years to move away from shame and sort of like this deep negativity to a place of more positivity, right? If you feel shame, if you hate yourself, if you're in a place of despair, it's hard to see a light at the end of the tunnel. And so when people behave poorly and they get criticized so much externally, and then they eventually turn into themselves and they shame themselves, it's hard to get out of that. So I am sure that his therapist or whoever he's talking to is saying, hey, look, Will, what you did was wrong, but let's not hate ourselves. There should be room to grow out of this. Now, I think there are other people that would argue that this pendulum has swung too far in the anti-shame direction. And so at times people, we're sort of allowing behavior to be passable just in describing it as part of the human experience when it's truly reprehensible. And maybe there's some value in people feeling that shame and self-doubt. I don't know where I fall on it, but that's what he's referring to.
Right? I'm human, and I made a mistake, and I'm trying not to think of myself as a piece of shit. So I would say to those people, I know it was confusing. I know it was shocking. But I promise you, I am deeply devoted and committed to putting light and love and joy into the world. And, if you hang on, I promise we'll be able to be friends again.
All right. I thought it was good. I buy it. I thought he was transparent. I thought he was honest, vulnerable. I thought it was pretty good. There is no question that this has been absolutely devastating for him. And I am sure he is floundering. I'm sure he feels like just like his identity has been stripped from him. So I feel bad, but I think he's a talented guy, an exceptionally hard worker, and I am sure he'll come out the other side. So I'd be curious what you think. Leave comments below. Like, subscribe, all those things.